Right. In the last class, we were discussing about how to set out a simple curve. Okay. So in that, we have seen the linear methods. We said we have got different linear methods by which we can go on to set out your simple curve. But however, we have seen only by setting out offsets to the tangent, we have seen how to set out your simple curve. And similarly, we'll just try to have an idea of one more method from the set of angular methods which we have got for setting out your simple curve. So this already we have seen in our last class. So these are the different angular methods by which we can go on to set out your simple curve. So any of this method can be referred for setting out your simple curve in the field. So in any of these angular methods, which are also called as your instrument methods, we are going to be using your simple theodolite. Okay. So along with the simple theodolite, if required, we'll be using a chain or tape. So in order to set out your simple curve in the field. So in our course today, we'll be discussing about this particular method. That's the Rankine's method of tangential angles. So why I'm taking up this method means subsequently your compound curve, what we are going to be talking about, which is also dealt by this particular method. So that's the reason I'm just referring to this particular method by which you are going to be setting out your simple curve. So otherwise, one can also even think of the other methods which are certainly available in any of the standard textbook, which you can go through for understanding how to set out your simple curve, either by other linear methods or the other angular methods which I have not touched upon in this particular course. So let's quickly have a review of what we have discussed in our last class. We said we have got two straights in the sense your two straight lines which are subsequently considered as your tangential lines. Let's say straights AB and BC. These two straights are having a deflection angle which is represented as phi, and this angle of intersection between these two straight lines are tangential lines, which in fact is indicated as I, which we call it as angle of intersection. And we said somewhere we'll be having what is called as tangential point T1 and tangential point T2, in between which we are going to have our simple curve, which we are looking at. And as we have understood, the center of the simple curve, whatever we are referring, would be at some point. Let's say that point with respect to which the center position is O, and the angle what is getting subtended at the center is nothing but it is your deflection angle, which already we have understood, and the radius of the simple curve is what is indicated by the notation R. And we have understood in the last class like how to calculate the chainage of point T1, chainage of point T2. So I'm not going into the details of how to calculate again the chainages and so on. Okay, so chainage of T1 and T2 is what we have already seen in our last class. And now let's quickly recall what we have discussed about how to set the points on your curve in the layout. First, how do we understand where to locate the points on that particular curve, and subsequently how those points are to be transferred in the field in the process of setting out your simple curve. So what we said is, okay, while talking about the chainage of T1, if the chainage of T1 is not a whole number in the sense, if it is not equal to some number of times the chain is used for reaching your point T1. Yesterday, I'll just quickly go through that same numbers if I can properly recall. We said the chainage of point T1 is nothing but 152 meters, if I am correct. So 152 meters is nothing but I can write it as 7 times the chain, full chain is used, plus eighth time, it's not the full chain which is used. Rather, in that full chain, let's say the standard chain of 20 meters when I am using. So out of that 20 meters, only 12 meters is used to get to your chainage of point T1, and the other remaining 8 meters is what is indicated as the chord length by representing a point on your curve, so which we are calling it as point A. And that length which we were supposed to be talking about should be the curve length from point T1 to A, as we cannot mark that curve length to represent in the field. So what we are saying is, though we call it as curve length or we call it as chord length, both are going to be one and same, because the angle what is getting subtended at the center of your chosen curve, simple curve, that angle what is subsequently getting subtended at the center. So we said this angle is a smaller angle. So subsequently the chord length, whether you call it as chord length or whether you call it as curve length, so we said both are one and same. And we said that subsequent angle what is getting subtended at the center is nothing but 2 times that of delta 1. And how is that we are, why is that we are writing it as 2 times delta 1 is already what we have talked about, because from the fundamental principles of your circle concept or equation of your circle. So if we are trying to talk about the angle, what your tangential line T1B is making with the chord, the first chord, let's say the first chord length is something C1. Okay, so T1A is my first chord which has got the length, let's say that so-called length T1 to A is what I am writing it as C1. C1 indicates the length of the first chord. Okay, so this is indicating me length of the first chord. We said already in the last class, the first chord and the last chord are called as your subchords, and all the other remaining chords are nothing but we call them as your normal chords, because all those other remaining chords are set with your one full length chainage, okay, with chainage or length of one full chain. So which is, if you are using that standard chain of 20 meters, so length of that normal chords, other remaining chords apart from the first and last, is nothing but it is equal to 20 meters in the example what I am referring to. Okay, and we said this from the tangential angle, from the tangential line T1B to your first chord, that's nothing but your subchord. This angle is going to be delta 1 from the principle of your, from the fundamental principles of your equation of the circle. So if this is alpha 1, then at the center, if you are looking at the how much is the angle that is getting subtended, so that angle what we are going to be getting is nothing but 2 times that of your delta 1. That is what we have talked about. And now simultaneously I am going to be even talking about something called as deflection angle, how we are going to be representing with respect to each and every individual point that you are marking on the arc of your simple curve. Okay, so let's say from always that so-called deflection angle what you are going to be indicating is from the reference direction of your tangential T1 to B. So let's say for example I am setting my theodolite at point T1, because I said deflection angle has to be measured with some instrument. So let's say I am using a simple theodolite which is set at T1 point, and initial line of sight is towards your point B. So I am setting my theodolite with the line of sight going from T1 to B with your vernier readings set to 0, 0, and the other one obviously 360 degrees. So 360 degrees, otherwise also nothing but called as your 0, 0 again. Oh, sorry, one vernier reading 0 degrees, other vernier reading 180 degrees. Sorry, I'm sorry. So now I am going to be indicating what is called as my deflection angle to bisect your point A from the instrument at station T1. I am trying to focus towards your point A which I have set on my curve, and the angle how much I am going to be rotating. Okay, so the angle by which I am rotating, so this angle is nothing but I am calling it as your deflection angle, let's say phi 1. I repeat, this angle I am writing it as phi 1. Sir, earlier you said that angle is nothing but delta 1. Here now we are saying it is phi 1. Yes, delta 1 or phi 1 for this case is same. Okay. So your so-called phi 1 what you are going to be representing is nothing but it is delta 1 only. Next, moving on to subsequent points, we'll see that change, whatever we are going to be talking about. Okay, now let's subsequently move ahead from point A to point B. With that standard length, I'll be marking your second chord. Likewise, the angle what is getting subtended at the center of your simple curve is going to be indicated as 2 delta 2. Let's say A to B length is what I am calling it as the length of your second chord, which is nothing but C2, which I am writing it as length of second chord. And similarly, now understand what I am trying to do. At point A, earlier I started my discussion with respect to chord 1. I started my discussion where I had a tangent at point T1. So that tangential line was going from T1 to B, and from the tangential line at what angle of inclination your chord was there, I said that angle is delta 1. Now similarly here, at any point on the curve if you are trying to draw a tangent, now what I am doing is at point A I am just trying to draw a tangent from the first chord direction, the so-called tangent on the curve. This angle was nothing but it is delta 1, which we have already talked about. Okay. Now what I am doing is I am extending my second chord, what I have indicated between point A to point B, from the tangential line which is represented at point A. My second chord is at an inclination delta 2. Okay. Now let's quickly understand how much is going to be my deflection angle. How did we represent the deflection angle? Deflection angle is nothing but from the standard tangential direction, that is T1 to B. At what angle of inclination your point B which is marked on the chord, the point B which is marked on the simple curve is existing. Okay. So what is that inclination means? That means this angle. Right. So this angle is nothing but it is phi 2. And likewise, moving on to the next point, point C on the chord, on the curve. The BC is your next chord. Angle what is getting subtended with respect to the center is indicated by 2 delta 3. As we have said, like 2 delta 2 or 2 delta 3, which is nothing but it is equal to 2 delta n minus 1, if you can recall. Okay. Now once again the same story. At point B I am just trying to draw another tangent to your curve. From that tangent to your chord C3, we would have an angle delta 3. And how much is going to be my deflection angle? So deflection angle is nothing but from the reference direction T1 to B, at what angle of inclination your point C is existing. So I'll now mark a line going from T1 to C like this. So this angle of inclination is nothing but your deflection angle for your point C. Okay, let me say this, instead of writing it as phi 1, I'll write it as phi A, which indicates it is the deflection angle which you are calculating for the position of point A marked on the chord. Likewise, phi 2 is nothing but it is the deflection angle what you are trying to calculate with respect to the point B which is marked on your curve. Likewise, this is phi C. Likewise, I'll go on to get point D on the curve, point E on the curve, and so on. So for which I'll be having my deflection angles which I can go on to represent. Okay, so this is going to be my phi D and likewise phi E and so on. So I hope I made some sense in making you understand what is this difference between delta angle and your deflection angle. Okay. I said earlier, your phi 1, that so-called deflection angle corresponding to your first chord is nothing but it is equal to delta 1. Now let me subsequently go ahead in understanding for the other aspects. Like now, what is my deflection angle phi 2 equal to? Yeah. So deflection angles, I started talking about, which phi 1 is nothing but I said it is phi a, which is otherwise represented as phi a. So I said this is equal to delta 1. And next we went on to say phi b, deflection angle corresponding to the position of point B on the curve. So at what angle that particular point B is existing from the initial tangent. Okay. So that's nothing but from the rear tangent. So at what angle of inclination your so-called point B direction is existing. So that's what we call it as deflection angle corresponding to the position of point B from T1 at instrument station. So what is that phi B value equal to? I want to write down that. So phi B value is nothing but it is equal to, look at here what I am going to be writing down. So phi B, what I am just going to be indicating is nothing but it is equal to phi A plus delta 2. How did I represent my phi A angle? Phi A is nothing but angle from your T1B direction to point A plus the subsequent angle at which the chord of that particular point was existing, okay, or in the other way, so plus the subsequent angle made by the tangent to that of the chord corresponding to the point B is existing. So that angle is nothing but delta 2. Likewise, if I go on to write down what is my phi C is nothing but phi B plus the corresponding delta angle what I was getting with respect to the position of the chord going from point B to point C. And continuously if I go on to write down phi n is nothing but it is equal to phi n minus 1, that's a deflection angle corresponding to the previous point on the curve plus the corresponding delta n value what I am going to be getting with respect to the last subchord which I am going to be looking at. So this is the relation between your the angle at which your chord is existing from the tangent drawn to your curve with the deflection angle. So in terms of that, if I just want to have a relation between both of them, so that's how I can go on to talk about it. So with this minimal idea, so if we just simply go ahead in understanding how are we going to be setting out your simple curve with respect to that of your angular method. So because ultimately in the case of the angular method which we are going to be taking up, that's your deflection method, which is otherwise also called as your Rankine's deflection angle. Okay, so based on that, how we are going to be setting out the curve means based on this same thing what I am going to be what I have just now discussed about. So let's quickly go through that and let us have a clear idea about how we are going to be setting out our simple curve based on that angular method, that is nothing but the Rankine's deflection angle method. So in the case of the Rankine's deflection angle method, the way how we are going to be setting out the curve in the field is based on the idea of those deflection angles what we have certainly talked about. That's phi A, phi B, phi C, phi D, phi E, phi F, so on till your last deflection angle point. So that's what we are going to be looking at. So this phi n, whenever we are going to be talking about this phi n, is nothing but this should be equal to your phi. Okay, I repeat, this phi n angle is nothing but it should be equal to your phi value. Okay, so now with this idea, let me quickly go through this first method what we started talking about, that is your Rankine's method of tangential angles or deflection angles. Why do we call it as tangential angles? Because from the tangential direction, from the rear tangent or the first tangent, so you are trying to measure the angles corresponding to the various points which are marked on your simple curve. So at what angle of inclination different points marked on your simple curve is existing from your rear tangent. Yeah. So let us understand the procedure. In this method, curves are staked out. Staked out means set out by use of deflection angles. Okay. So by making use of those deflection angles, we are going to be setting out your curve in the field. So how these deflection angles are calculated? These deflection angles are are represented from the point of curvature. From the point of curvature from the tangent, that's nothing but your T1 point, to the points along your curve. So from your T1B direction to the point A or to the point B to the point C, I'll try to bisect my line of sight of the theodolite, and accordingly I'll try to calculate how much is that corresponding horizontal angle I'm getting, and that angle is what we are calling it as your deflection angle, at which each and every individual point marked on the curve is existing from your point of curvature or from the first tangent point. Yeah, the curve is set by driving pegs at regular interval equal to the length of the normal chord. All these steps what we have talked about are very much clearly discussed in our previous class as well as in today's class also. Usually the subchords are provided at the beginning and at the end of the curve to adjust the actual length of the curve. The method is based on the assumption that there is no difference between the length of the arcs and their corresponding chords of normal length or anything less than that of it. Less than that of in the sense your subchords length are less than that of the normal chord length. So that's what it refers to. Yeah, so let's look at this particular picture. Okay, the notations what I have followed earlier and here represented in the figure may not be same because I copied this particular figure from standard material. So those notations what I was talking about earlier, this notation what I am referring here may not be matching. Please don't have confusion. Understand only the concept behind what we are trying to talk about. So here the deflection angle is indicated by this delta notation, but earlier we were trying to indicate the deflection angle with the notation phi. Okay, here this notation V is indicated. Earlier we were using the notation B, and this B earlier was denoted by the notation C. Otherwise all the other remaining notations were one and the same. Okay, so hope this image gives more clarity in way of indicating your deflection angles with respect to point A, point B, point C, point D, and point E, and so on. Whatever I have drawn may not be very much clearly indicating you that variation in the angle corresponding to each of the point. So hope this would give you a clear clarity of how those deflection angles were represented from your initial point of tangent, that's your point of curvature, T1 point, to that of the various points marked on your curve, simple curve. The underlying principle of this method is that the deflection angle to any point on the circular curve is measured by the 1/2 of the angle what is subtended at the center of the circle by the arc from the point of curvature to that particular point. What does it mean? So your so-called deflection angle what you are calculating is nothing but it is equal to the half of the angle what is getting subtended at the center of that portion of the curve. That's what it means. Let points A, B, C, D, E are to be identified in the field to lay out, obviously, because ultimately what we are supposed to be doing in the field is to set out those points A, B, C, D, E, F in the field, and by joining those points small a, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on in the field, you will be getting your simple curve. Okay, that's what you are supposed to be doing. But when you are going to the field, first we should be knowing what is your corresponding deflection angle that I am supposed to be measuring in the field, what should be the length of that subchord or maybe the length of those normal chords, what are those corresponding angle of inclinations, that is your delta 1, delta 2, which the notations which I was trying to talk about. So all this information, I should be knowing it. How do I know that? So from the layout or the plan of that particular curve, what you are supposed to be setting, from that, you are going to be calculating all that information. So your deflection angles, how much it has to be, where you want to have your point A, B, C, D on the curve to be marked. What is the corresponding lengths of your chords that you have marked? What are those corresponding inclinations of delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, and so on? So what are those delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, and so on indicating you? So they are indicating at what angle of inclination the corresponding chord is existing from the tangent represented to that particular curve. Okay. So those angles are to be known. The deflection angles are to be known. And with that known information, then I can go on to set out your simple curve based on your angular method in the field. Okay. So let points A, B, C, D, E are to be identified in the field to lay out a curve between T1 to T2. So I am required to lay out my curve going from the first tangential point, that is point of curvature, till your second tangential point, that is your point of tangency. So that's nothing but from T1 to T2, I am required to set out your simple curve in the field. To change the directions from the straight alignment, going from A to V, that's AV line, to your VB line, because in this case, my AV line means this line. This is my AV line, and VB line means this line. So from these two straight directions, I should deviate my direction of the alignment with your curve, what is to be set going from the point T1 to T2. That's what it is. So to decide about the points, chords A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E are being considered having some nominal lengths of 30 meters or 20 meters. So whatever is the length, it doesn't matter. So it should be equal to the length of your standard chain, what you are using in the field for measuring the distances. To adjust the actual length of the curve, two subchords have been provided, one at the beginning. So that subchord, obviously, yes, we have understood T1A is what is your first subchord, and the other subchord going the last portion of your curve. So in the example, what you see is the last portion of the curve is going from point E to T2. So that is what we are calling it as your last subchord, or the chord corresponding to the end of the curve. The amount of deflection angles that are to be set from the tangential line at the point of curvature, from the point of curvature, at what angle of inclination your point A on the curve is to be, point B on the curve is to be, point C on the curve is to be. So from the tangential direction, so all these deflection angles are to be calculated before itself, before you go on to the field to set out your points. Because in order to set out the position of those points corresponding to the curve, so you should be knowing at what angle of inclination those point A, B, C, D on the curve is getting deflected from your rear tangent or the initial tangent. The steps for computation are as follows. Already we have talked about everything in detail, so I'm not going into the details of again one by one. Okay. So you can see how those tangential angles are represented with respect to the chord, and how your deflection angles are represented from the initial tangent. All that is relatively in a bigger view is what is represented in this particular picture, so that this picture gives us more clarity and insight into how those angles are being represented. So if I want to now go ahead in calculating those angles, so I'll just come here. Okay. So what is this delta 1 value or delta 2 value? Because if I know this delta 1, delta 2, delta 3 and so on till delta n, then I can go on to calculate your deflection angles, phi A or phi B or phi C or phi D or so on, phi n. Okay. So how do we calculate that? So if I just want to calculate that, let me look at this particular curve. Okay. So if I am looking at this particular curve, let's say the first subchord is T1 to A. Okay, so if I am looking at that first subchord with respect to the center, okay, this is your T1 point. This was your point A. The subchord was like this, which I said this is C1. Length of that first subchord is what I have indicated it as C1. The angle what was getting subtended with respect to the center of that first portion of your subchord is nothing but which was indicated as 2 delta 1. Now, ultimate objective is to calculate what is this delta 1, because if I know delta 1, I can say my first deflection angle, that is phi 1. And similarly, if I can go ahead in calculating what is delta 2, then I can go on to say what is my deflection angle phi b. So likewise, so on. So how do I calculate my delta 1? If I can look at this, we made an assumption. What was that assumption? Your arc length or the chord length is one and same. So if we say arc length or the chord length is one and same, then 2 delta 1. Sir, how are you writing it as 2 delta 1? Because that is an angle. Okay. To be more specific, the arc length, how do we need to write it? Length of the arc, that is C1, which is equal to your chord length. So which is equal to radius of this curve R into 2 delta 1, where that delta 1 value is represented in radians. So this implies delta 1 is equal to C by 2R. Likewise, now if I am looking at the second portion of your curve going from point A to point B, small point A to small point B. So if I am looking at that portion of the curve with respect to the center of the curve, this is point O, this is small point A, this is small point B. I'm just roughly indicating. Don't see, sir, here the orientation of that curve was something in this inclination, you represented in some other inclination. Don't worry, don't have that much confusion. I'm just trying to talk about some rough sketches. Okay, so the length of the second chord, which is called as your normal chord. So where I said the length between point A to point B is nothing but it is the length of one full chain. That's how we were setting out your other normal chords. Okay, so C2 chord length is something already known to you, and C1 chord length also. If I can just take that example of the numbers what I was talking about, T1 to A, how much was the distance we were maintaining? Some remaining 8 meters I said you have to set as the length of the first subchord. So that's how we are going to be knowing the C1 length, and the radius of your simple curve is already known, from which you can calculate your delta 1. Now similarly, for that second portion of the curve going from small a to small b point, the angle what was getting subtended at the center of the curve was 2 delta 2. So now I can say my chord length C2 is nothing but the radius of the curve R into 2 delta 2. So this implies your delta 2 angle is nothing but C2 by 2R. This expression in general form can also be represented as delta is equal to C by 2R. Why I am writing it as delta? Because your length of the second chord or third chord or fourth chord or fifth chord till the last but one chord. I repeat, the length of second chord till the last but one chord. The length of the chord was the standard dimension, that is 20 meters chain length or 30 meters chain length. The radius of the curve was standard. So automatically the angle what was getting subtended at the center was also a standard value. If you can look at here in this picture, this is indicated as 2 delta 1, whereas the other angles what are getting subtended for each portion of your chord, those angles are indicated as 2 delta, 2 delta, 2 delta, 2 delta only. They were not indicated as 2 delta 2, 2 delta 3, 2 delta 4, 2 delta 5 and so on. Why? Because as the chord length is standard for all those portions of the curve going from small a to small b, small b to small c to small d to small e. So the angle what is getting subtended for each portion of that standard length of the chain is also going to be same. Okay, so that's how I can go on to say delta 2, delta 3, delta 4, delta 5, delta 6 till delta n minus 1. And subsequently to the last chord, that's nothing but once again we call it as your subchord. So for this last subchord portion, the angle what was getting subtended is 2 delta n with respect to the center. So what is going to be the length of that or deflection? Delta n angle. So delta n angle, if I go on to calculate, it comes as your length of your nth chord. That's your last subchord divided by 2r. Once this delta 1, delta 2, so on, delta n values are known, then I can go on to say simply phi 1 is nothing but, which is equal to delta 1, phi 2 is nothing but, or rather phi a, phi b is nothing but phi a plus delta 2, phi c is nothing but phi b plus delta 3, and phi d is nothing but phi c plus delta 4, and so on. I can go on to subsequently calculate. Okay, so that's what is represented here in the form of numbers. Otherwise, there is nothing what is indicated here. Yeah, so if the angle was in terms of radians, yes, this expression is valid. If the angle being substituted is in terms of degrees, if you are trying to calculate that angle in terms of the degrees, then obviously I have to multiply the same thing wherever delta 1 is represented in the expression with pi by 180. So I think I need not go into much details of how these expressions are represented, because we have been talking about earlier also. And if that angle has to be converted into minutes or seconds, still you can go on to do that, because 1 degree is equal to 60 minutes. 1 minute is nothing but it is equal to 60 seconds. So according to your requirement of the values, you can still go on to convert those into degrees or minutes or seconds. So likewise, I can go on to calculate delta 1 or your delta 2, delta 3, delta 4, which are nothing but simply delta, and the angle corresponding to your last chord, that is nothing but delta n. And once those delta 1, delta 2, delta 3, and so on, delta n values are known, then we go on to calculate your deflection angles. Okay, so here the notation was this delta, but according to what we have talked about, it have been phi a. Notation, there is a variation, but fundamentals are the one and same. This notation, instead of this, we represented it as phi b. Instead of this, we represented it as phi c, and that's how it is. And we said phi n is nothing but phi n minus 1 plus the delta angle corresponding to the last nth chord. So once these deflection angles are known, then we are going to the field and subsequently setting out that particular simple curve in the field. So how we are going to be doing it? So it's a typical standard procedure by which we are going to be setting out in the field with the information basically required. That's the deflection angle is what is known, and the chord lengths of various chords marked on that particular simple curve. Those lengths are also known. Now we can simply go ahead in setting out that particular curve. So for that, setting out the curve in the field, what we are using is a simple theodolite, because as I said, at point T1, I should be setting out your theodolite. First, I should be having a proper line of sight bisected to your along your first tangential line, setting your vernier readings 0, 0 and 180 degrees. And with that, I should rotate to orient your line of sight of your theodolite towards your point A, marked whatever point A which you want to mark it in the field. Okay, so by what angle I should be rotating? I should be rotating by an angle which is equal to delta A, so or rather phi A, which we are calling it as your first deflection angle. Okay, so that first deflection angle to orient the position of point A, so that much angle I am going to be setting it. By that much angle, I'll rotate my telescope. Okay, that much angle at which I'll be setting, and I'll be clamping your upper tangent screw so that your angle will not further change. And once that is set, in that direction, where is the point A? I don't know. I know only the angle at which the point A direction is there. Small a point direction is there. but I exactly do not know where is the position of that so-called point A. So if you can recall, we know that from T1, I repeat, from T1, we know the length of that chord 1, T1A distance, that is nothing but subchord length, first subchord, C1 length is known to us. From the example what I talked about, we said, okay, the first subchord length could be 8 meters with reference to the example what I have been talking about in the last couple of classes. So the length of the first subchord is known. So what I'll do is, as the direction of point A is now known to me, because I have set your angle which is equal to the deflection angle of point A. Now what I should be doing is, I'll take a tape, I'll mark a length of 8 meters. First point of the tape, that is 0th meter position of the tape, I'll be placing at T1 position. And the other 8th meter end of the tape, I'll just try to hold it. And I'll just try to keep on moving by stretching the tape, holding the initial point of the tape at T1. I'll stretch my tape and I'll just try to move like this, swing the tape like this. One person will be viewing through the telescope of the theodolite, other person will be swinging your tape. Whenever the position of the person is properly seen through your telescope, we'll instruct the person who is holding the tape to stretch the tape in that direction to orient a 8 meters point having a deflection angle of something phi A. Hope I made some sense. Swing the tape with a length which is equal to the length of the first subchord. Align the orientation of that particular tape in the direction of your the deflection angle what you have set. By giving the necessary instructions, align the person with the tape in the direction of that so-called point A which you were supposed to be setting, which has got a deflection angle of something phi A. That's how we say, okay, your point A was supposed to be at this particular location, which has got a deflection angle of so and so, and the corresponding distance from T1 to that point A is nothing but equal to your length of the first subchord. That's how point A, small a, is marked in the field. Next, small b point. How do I mark this point B, small b point in the field? I know what is the deflection angle at which your small b is to be set in the field. That is, phi b value is known. Okay, so I'll once again rotate my theodolite by setting a horizontal angle which is equal to phi b. Clamp your upper tangent screw, upper clamp screw. Do not touch them because the angle will vary. So with that phi b angle what is set, the orientation of the telescope is now ready. What I should be doing is, I know the length of the second chord. That's nothing but length of the chord going from small a to small b. We said it's a standard length which is equal to the length of the chain. So 20 meters chain if I am using, so that's length of the chord is 20 meters. If I am using 30 meters chain, the length of the chord is 30 meters, which I have set, which I had in my layout. Okay, so with that 20 meters chain or with that 30 meters chain, the standard length of the chord is known to you. Orientation of the theodolite is already set with a deflection angle of phi b. 20 meters chain, you take it, but you are not going to be placing your chain with initial point of the chain at T1. Rather, now the initial point of the chain should be set at point A. Because if you look at it, from where your second chord is getting started, yeah, please look at in this, yeah. So from where the second chord is getting started, from this point A to your point B, your second chord is stretched. In the sense, your tape, initial point of the tape, you should hold at point A and stretch 20 meters and give the instructions by viewing through the telescope to the person who is holding the other end of the chain to come in alignment of this direction of the telescope. Let him stretch, let him move, travel. When he is trying to travel by stretching the tape or chain, you would see him when we are viewing through the telescope. Ask him to stop there and give the instructions to him to fix your peg or another point on the field, which is nothing but the position of your point B. Likewise, position of point C, point D, point E, and so on till the last point to reach to the end of your curve. You are going to be setting out those points in the field. Once all those points in the field are set, then you are going to be joining all those points. Let's say, for example, this is position of point A, point B, point C, point D. These points you are marking in the field now. So once these points are marked, then join them by means of a proper rough curve. So which is going to indicate you what is called as your curve setting. So this is your initial tangent line. This was your final tangent line. And this is how your simple curve is set between the point T1 to your point T2, with the center of that particular curve existing somewhere here. The total angle what is getting subtended here is nothing but it is equal to phi, which is equal to what is called as your deflection angle. Okay, so hope whatever is discussed is relatively clear, and that's how we are going ahead in understanding how to calculate your how we are going to be setting out physically the so-called simple curve in the field. This is all about the procedure. The same thing whatever I have talked about very much in detail, point by point, is represented under your procedure for setting out the simple curve based on your Rankine's method of deflection angle or Rankine's method of tangential angle. So next, moving ahead, after knowing how to set out your simple curve, let us start understanding about your compound curve. See, the way how we are going to be setting out the compound curve is as same as that of the way how we are going to be setting out your simple curve. Because what is compound curve? Compound curve is a combination of two or more simple curves. So in the process of setting out your compound curve, if I say I have got two simple curves which is forming a compound curve, I know how to set one simple curve. So I'll set one simple curve, in continuation I'll set another simple curve. That gives me what is called as your compound curve. So let us just understand about this compound curve again. So this particular slide, hope I have already talked about. So compound curve is nothing but it's a curve which consists of two or more simple curves having different radius, bending in the same direction and lying on the same side of your common tangent. Okay, so to your common tangent, which is my common tangent, this is my common tangent. So to this common tangent, what is drawn to the curve, your centers of those two simple curves will lie on same side. That is what is called as your compound curve. Okay. So let's understand that this is my compound curve which I am going to be talking about. As like in the case of your simple curve, even in the case of your compound curve also, we should be understanding the elements of this particular compound curve properly. So once the elements of the compound curve are understood properly, then there is nothing much in knowing about how this so-called setting out of your compound curve is going to be, and so on. So let's quickly understand the different elements are the notations to start with. So what are being indicated in this particular representation? Okay. So your two straights in the is nothing but AB line and BC line, as like the same way earlier also we have indicated them. The angle of intersection is indicated by I, even here also. Okay, the angle of intersection, and the angle at which your forward tangent is getting deflected or deviated from your rear tangent, that is what we call it as your deflection angle. So that deflection angle is denoted by the notation phi, even here. Okay, so next, to go on to understand the radius of your small curve, let's say I am indicating it as RS. The radius of the large curve is indicated as RL. The center of the small curve is indicated as OS, and the center of the large curve is indicated as OL. The angle what is getting subtended at the center of your small curve is denoted by the notation alpha. The angle what is getting subtended at the center of your large curve is nothing but it is beta. And if we go on to calculate that alpha plus beta value, alpha plus beta is nothing but it is equal to 5. So how do we say alpha plus beta is equal to 5 means if I am looking at your triangle BKM. Okay, so in this triangle, one angle is alpha, the other angle is beta. Sir, how are you saying it is alpha angle? This angle is alpha. How do you say this angle is beta? How do you say? Now, if you look at this simple curve, first simple curve, which is indicated something like this, where the first tangent to this simple curve is like this, and the second tangent to the simple curve. Second tangent to the simple curve means it's nothing but the common tangent. So how is that common tangent coming? This is the common tangent what we had. This point is N. This point is your T1 point. If you can recall, when two tangents are getting intersected, this so-called angle what we have represented is nothing but we call it as the deviation angle. The angle at which your second tangent is getting deviated from your first tangent. And that angle is nothing but I am writing it as alpha, because the angle what was getting subtended at the center of your first curve or first simple curve is nothing but we said it is alpha. If this angle what is subtended at the center is alpha, then automatically this so-called deflection angle what is indicated here is also nothing but alpha from that same thing. So that so-called deflection angle for the position of your first simple curve is nothing but it is alpha. Likewise, for the second portion of the curve, if I am looking at this beta is nothing but once again it is the deflection angle. Okay, from that only I am saying this angle in the triangle BKM, angle at K is nothing but alpha, angle at M is nothing but beta. So if angle at K is alpha and angle at M is beta, then what will be this remaining angle which I am indicating as your angle of intersection? So obviously this remaining angle is nothing but 180 minus of alpha plus beta. And if you know, and if you can recall, your so-called deflection angle for the complete compound curve, I am talking about for the complete compound curve, that's nothing but phi. So that deflection angle for the complete compound curve is nothing but 180 minus angle of intersection. And 180 minus 180 in the sense 180 degrees minus what is angle of intersection, which is nothing but 180 minus of alpha plus beta. So if I expand it, what I'll be simply getting is phi is nothing but it is equal to alpha plus beta. That's what I have indicated. So the deflection angle for your complete compound curve is equal to the sum of the deflection angles of the first simple curve and second simple curve. This is one fundamental relation which we are going to be coming across with. Okay. Now let us quickly understand the other notations what are indicated in this particular compound curve. T1 point indicates you what is called as your point of curvature, or otherwise which is also called as your point of tangency. First point of tangent. And T2 is what is called as your point of tangency, or otherwise your second or the end tangential point. So here I am not calling it as second tangent because I have got another tangent corresponding to a tangential point here, which is called as point N. Okay, so N is nothing but it is a tangential point only, but which is corresponding to your common tangent. Okay. T1 to N. T1 to N is indicating you what is called as your length of your first simple curve, and distance from N to T2 is indicating you what is called as the length of your second simple curve. And yeah, other terms. Small ts distance. If you can see here, small ts distance which is otherwise also equal to k into n. Sir, how is this otherwise also equal to k into n? If you understand, so what is this small ts distance? This is that so-called small ts distance what I am indicating. From the simple curve, we know that tangent length on this side of the curve or this side of the curve is one and same. Okay, it means that T1k distance is nothing but it is equal to kn distance, which is otherwise, which is represented as your tangential length of your small or small curve. S indicates small curve, L indicates large curve. Okay, so T1k is nothing but it's the tangential length of your small curve, or which is equal to kn. Likewise, if I am looking at the other second simple curve, the corresponding tangential length of the second simple curve is nothing but n to m distance, which is nothing but it should be equal to m to t2 distance, which is what is represented as TL. So what does this TL indicates? It's the tangential length of your large simple curve. Okay, sir, is it compulsory that your small simple curve has to be first, second, large simple curve has to be second? Nothing like that. So large simple curve could be indicated first, small simple curve could be indicated next. So it is not guaranteed that how the orientation of the compound curve should get started. Whether it should get started with the simple curve of smaller radius to larger radius or larger radius to smaller radius. It could be anyway. And you have got some other notation, that is capital S and capital TS and capital TL. So what does this capital TS mean? So capital TS is nothing but it is the length of the points going from T1 to B. What does this length of the points going from T1 to B means? T1 to B is indicating you what is called as tangential length. I repeat, the tangential length on the smaller side of your compound curve. I repeat, TS, here in this case, capital TS and capital TL are not going to be same. Why they are not same, sir? Earlier when we were talking about a simple curve, we said, okay, this tangential length, the other tangential length was same. Because the curve was symmetric. The total curve, what you were looking at earlier, was symmetric. But here it's a compound curve. Portion of the curve with some radius, the other portion of the curve with some other radius. So obviously, the tangent, what for the complete compound curve when you are looking at, the tangential length for that smaller side of your compound curve and the tangential length, what you have got for the larger side of your compound curve, they are not going to be same. Now, how they are to be calculated? Your tangential length of the smaller side of your compound curve or tangential length of the larger side of your compound curve, that is your capital TS or capital TL, how is to be calculated? Capital TS is nothing but the distance going from T1 to B. And whereas your capital TL is nothing but it is equal to, so capital TL is what I can write it as the distance going from B to T2. Okay, so by calculating those distances, I can go on to say what is that capital TS distance, capital TL distance, small TS distance, small TL distance, alpha angle, beta angle, phi angle, and so on. So this small TS, small TL, capital TS, capital TL, alpha, beta, and phi, these are all what are called as your elements of this particular compound curve. Okay, so with this idea of notations and the elements of that particular simple curve what we have talked about, let's quickly go ahead in knowing about how to set out your compound curve. So all the notations with their nomenclature already I have talked about. So you can go through those once again in detail when you go through this particular PPT again. The other nomenclatures. So in this particular figure, it is shown that a compound curve which is tangential in three straights. Three straights in the sense you have got three straight lines which are indicated as your tangential lines in between which your compound curve is represented. So one straight line going from A to B, another one from B to C, and the other straight line or the tangential line going from K to M, if you can recall. So where the first tangential line or first straight line with the tangential point at T1 with the BC tangential line or BC straight line with the tangential point at T2 and KM common tangential line which we said with the tangential point at N. Okay, so let me show you that. Okay, so for the straight line AB, tangential point is T1. For the straight line BC, the tangential point is T2. For the straight line KN, the tangential point to the curve is at N. That's what is indicated. The two circular arcs going from T1 to N and N to T2 having their centers at OS and OL, which we have already seen. The arc having a smaller radius may be first or maybe second. As I told you, the arc of that compound curve with smaller radius could be first or smaller radius could be next. Let the tangents AB and BC bisect or intersect at the point B, and the tangents AB and KM are rather calling it as tangents. The straight lines AB and KM are getting intersected at point K, and likewise the straight lines BC and KM is getting intersected at point M. Look at that picture. Whatever I am reading is very much understood here. So I have talked about 7 elements of the compound curve. So what are those 7 elements of the compound curve which we have talked about? Alpha, beta, phi, small ts, small tl, capital Ts, capital TL. So out of these 7 elements what we are indicating here, at least 4 elements data should be known to us for setting out a compound curve. So which 4? It could be any 4, doesn't matter. But however, okay, sorry, the 7 elements do not include this alpha and beta value. Rather, it includes the radius of your smaller curve, radius of the large curve. Okay, so out of these 7 elements, 4 elements data should be compulsory known. Otherwise, you cannot go on to set out your compound curves. Any 4 elements for which the data should be known. So if 4 elements data is known, then the remaining other 3 elements can be calculated from the fundamental trigonometric expressions. From the simple geometry of that compound curve, we can go on to find out the relation between various other parameters and subsequently find out the other 3 unknowns existing for that particular compound curve. And then we can go on to simply set out your compound curve in the field. Okay. So what is my element 1? Let's say phi, which is nothing but it's the sum of your deflection angles corresponding to the first simple curve and your second simple curve. Okay, and the various other things which are indicated, ts, small ts and small tl. What does that small ts and small tl indicates? Tangential length. So once the radius of that particular curve is known to you, then you can go on to calculate those tangential lengths from the simple basic expression. Earlier also we said the tangential length is nothing but which is equal to r into tan corresponding deflection angle by 2 which was getting subtended at the center. So here for curve 1, the deflection angle what was getting subtended at the center is alpha. So half of that alpha is nothing but alpha by 2, and the radius of that particular smaller curve was rs. So rs into tan alpha by 2, which is indicating you the length of the tangential line corresponding to your small curve. Likewise for large curve is what we can calculate from this particular expression. So why is this lengths of the tangential curves are required? Because if you can recall the procedure what we understand in the process of setting out the curve, first we say, okay, we should know the direction of your straight line AB, we should know the direction of your straight line BC, then the intersection of these 2 straight lines is indicated by your point B, where the angle of intersection between that is what is indicated as I, and the deflection angle is what is nothing but phi. That's what we have been talking about. The same way here. So once the chainage of point B is known, then I can go on to calculate what is the chainage of point T1. And once the chainage of point T1 is known, then I can go on to calculate what is the chainage of point T2. Everything that was for simple curve. In the same way, here also for compound curve, everything we are going to be talking about. So for simple curve 1, we can calculate what is the arc length. For simple curve 2, we can calculate the arc length. So we know how to calculate the arc length of the simple curve. Okay. So now here, what is the total arc length of the compound curve? It is the length of your curve 1 plus length of your curve 2, length of the arc 1 plus length of the arc 2. Likewise, we are going to be calculating. And next is length of the common tangent. What is the common tangent? Common tangent was the horizontal tangent which we have indicated going from the point K to point M. So the length of that common tangent is nothing but, if I quickly look at what is the length of this particular common tangent. Let me erase all this. Yeah. So what is the length of this particular common tangent going from K to M? So it's nothing but Kn distance plus Nm distance. Now what is this Kn distance is equal to? Kn distance is nothing but, I can call it as the length of your tangent for the smaller curve. So that is Ts plus Nm distance is indicating you the length of the tangent for your large curve. So Ts plus TL. Now we know what is Ts. Ts is nothing but radius of that smaller curve into tan of the deflection angle corresponding to your smaller curve, half of the deflection angle, that is tan alpha by 2, plus the length of the large curve into tan of the deflection angle by 2, which is getting subtended corresponding to the center of your second curve. So that's how we get what is your Km distance. Okay, and now I should know what is the tangential length of your compound curve. Tangential length of the compound curve means it is your capital Ts and capital TL value. So if I want to know what is my capital Ts value, so what is this capital Ts value is equal to? Capital Ts, if I can understand, it is nothing but it is equal to the distance going from T1 point to K plus K to B. And how about my capital TL distance? That's the tangential length for the compound curve. So capital TL on the larger side of the compound curve, it's nothing but distance going from T2 to capital M plus capital M to B. So if I am looking at this expression furthermore, what is distance from T1 point to K, which is indicated as small ts plus KB or BK. That value should be known. Likewise, what is this capital TL? Further, I can rewrite it as this is nothing but small TL plus MB. So if I can look at the triangle BKM, so if I am looking at the triangle BKM from sine rule, I can go on to, I can make use of your sine rule. Why I can make use of your sine rule? Because I know the length of your KM. KM length is already known for that in the three sides of the triangle BKM. Already the internal angles are known. Alpha angle is known, beta angle is known. I value is nothing but 180 of 180 minus of alpha plus beta. So angle of intersection is also known. So from simple trigonometry, I'll make use of your sine rule to calculate your BK value and BM value. So how do I calculate? So sine of I divided by opposite side, that is Km, which is equal to sine of alpha, opposite side of alpha angle is BM or MB, which is equal to the other angle, sine of beta angle by its opposite side. Okay, so beta angle opposite side is nothing but KB distance or BK distance. Okay, so already this Km distance is known, so I can make use of this relation to calculate my BM value. In the same way, I'll make use of this relation to calculate my BK distance. So once I know my bk distance, which is nothing but kb distance, then I can say this capital TS value is known. Then once I know my MB value or BM value, then I can say my capital TL value is known. Is it clear? So I can go on to calculate that, and if I go on to calculate that, I'll be getting my expressions like this for BK and BM. What is this alpha plus beta? How did I get this alpha plus beta? Nowhere I have seen this alpha plus beta. What we had is sine I. What is I? I was nothing but 180 minus of alpha plus beta. What is sine 180 minus of alpha plus beta? So it is the second quadrant. Sine 180 minus of an angle is nothing but it is in the second quadrant. In the second quadrant, sine of 180 minus angle is nothing but sine of that particular angle. So which we'll be getting it as sine of alpha plus beta. So called sine I is otherwise what is represented as sine alpha plus beta. That's how we are going to be having your expressions here. Further, you can try to rewrite it, because Km is what we have it as Ts plus small small tl, and that we are trying to rewrite into your expressions to get what is your Bk and Bm. So once Bk and Bm is known, then we can say, yes, I know how to calculate your capital Ts and capital TL value, which are nothing but the tangential lengths of your compound curve. Okay. So after substituting the expressions for small ts and small tl, so I am going to be getting the expressions for capital Ts and capital TL like this. So in a simplest form, I can just indicate your expressions like this, or either I can have it like this. So what are my 7 unknowns which I was trying to talk about? RS is, I don't say unknowns, so 7 parameters. That's the radius of the small curve, radius of the large curve, tangential length of the compound curve onto the smaller side, tangential length of your compound curve onto the larger side. Phi is indicating you what is called as your deflection angle, and yes, alpha plus beta. Okay, so if I know alpha plus beta, phi value is known, and subsequently this so-called Ts and Tb, small ts and small tl, were as such represented in terms of the function, that is alpha and beta, and anyhow in terms of the radius of smaller curve, radius of the larger curve. So that's how the 7 parameters are re-represented. And out of these 7 parameters, if 4 parameters are known, then we can go on to calculate your other 3 unknown parameters from 3 equations. What are those 3 equations? This is one equation, this is the second equation, this is my third equation. So from these 3 equations, I can go on to calculate the other remaining 3 unknowns for which the data is not known to us. So once we calculate these 3 remaining unknowns, so it means 7 unknowns are now, all the 7 parameters are now known to us. With this, we can now go on to understand how to calculate the deflection angles for the portion of your first simple curve and second simple curve, and then accordingly go on to set out your compound curve in the field. Okay, so let's quickly understand how are we going to set out the compound curve in the field after knowing how to calculate those basic 7 elements of the compound curve are calculated. So the curve may be set out by method of deflection angles from the 2 points T1 to N first, because when you are looking at your compound curve, you have this portion of the compound curve with one radius and the other compound curve with another radius. This is RS, this is RL, where this portion of the curve getting started from T1 ending at N, and the next portion of the compound curve getting started with N and getting ended at T2. Okay, so you are going to be using your method of deflection angles, that is your Rankine's method of deflection angles. I can make use of to set out the curve between the point T1 to N, which is what is called as the first branch of your compound curve, and the second where the first branch of the compound curve is getting started from point T1 ending at N, and second branch of the compound curve is getting started at point N and getting ended at T2. Out of that 7 quantities, 4 quantities of the curve to be given, ultimately to calculate the other remaining 3. In case if those 4 quantities are not given, it's not possible to calculate all the elements of the compound curve, and subsequently we cannot go on to set out your compound curve. Then the same procedure which we had in our mind when we have talked about your simple curve, in the same way we are going to be doing it here also. So first align your first straight line, second straight line, intersection of those two is your point B. Calculate the angle of intersection there. Once the angle of intersection between those two straights are known, then the angle of deflection for the complete compound curve is nothing but 180 minus of phi. That's how you can get your phi value. And once the position of point B is known, for which the chainage is known, so go on to calculate the chainage of capital T1 point. Once the chainage of capital T1 point is known, then the chainage of capital T2 point is nothing but it is equal to the chainage of capital T1 plus the length of your compound curve. So what is the total length of the compound curve? It is equal to the length of the first arc plus length of the second arc. That total gives you what is the chainage of your point T2. Once the chainages are known, then next step is to calculate your deflection angles corresponding to the first portion of the curve and corresponding to the second portion of the curve. How we are going to be calculating those deflection angles and so on? Same thing that we have followed in your Rankine's deflection method in the setting out of your simple curve. So because though it is called as a compound curve, so this compound curve is a combination of two simple curves. So we should understand how the deflection angles are to be calculated for first portion of the of your compound curve and subsequently the second portion of your compound curve. The procedure by which we are going to be doing is as same as that of what we have talked about in our earlier case. That's how we are going to be setting out your subsequent compound curve after calculating the deflection angles corresponding to the first portion of your compound curve and the second portion of your compound curve. Okay, and at the end, after setting it, we can go on to cross verify that whatever the angle that is getting subtended. Okay, ultimately, if this is my compound curve, this was your point T1, this was your point N, this was your point T2. So with theodolite position at N, if I bisect initially the direction of T1 and finally if I rotate it to bisect the direction of NT2, the angle what is to be formed here should be 180 minus pi by 2. So you can cross check that and accordingly you can check it out whether you are getting it correct or not. So what does this mean? How is this means? So this is the corresponding deflection angle what we had, and this is that corresponding deflection angle what we had. This comes out to be alpha by 2, this comes out to be beta by 2. So remaining angle obviously yes, 180 minus of alpha by 2 plus beta by 2. So that's nothing but alpha plus beta is what we are indicating it as phi. So 180 minus of phi by 2. Okay. So that's going to be a cross verification after first calculating everything from the layout, and then once you know the deflection angles corresponding to various points which are marked on your portion of the first simple curve and second simple curve, go to the field and set out those points corresponding to the first portion of the curve and second portion of the curve, and then join them to give you what is called as your compound curve. Okay, so this is all about how we are going to be setting out your compound curve in the field. So in our next class, we are going to be continuing our discussion with the remaining parts of your curves, that is about your transition curve, about your vertical curve, and subsequently the reverse curve. Okay. So we have discussed, as of the syllabus is concerned, we are trying to talk more in detail about your simple curve and compound curve, the setting process, elements of those all. But whereas with respect to the other curves, we are not going to be talking about in detail about how is this curve set and so on, just to have a basic idea. But in later advanced courses like so-called in advanced surveying or in advanced surveying techniques courses, so you will be coming across the setting out of all those other aspects. But those who are interested can know about them by going through any of the standard textbook. Okay. But however, as of the syllabus is concerned, we are restricting our discussion mostly with regard to all the aspects of simple curve and compound curve, and the basic fundamental insights to your other remaining curves, like your what is meant by reverse curve or transition curve, or maybe your vertical curves.